Good afternoon, everyone. It's the 1 o'clock time and people are coming in. So I want to get us started and we'll just keep expanding our audience here. But really happy to have Kevin Scudder here to share his wisdom. And I know many, if not all of you, know of Kevin and know how amazing he is. I'm going to spend a little time on his background for those of you who may not be as familiar. So Kevin is the collaborative attorney, a mediator, a writer, trainer, and the inspiration behind the Seattle Collaborative Law Center. It's based in Seattle, Washington. He's a board member of the IACP. He's also a board member of the Global Collaborative Law Council, chair of the American Bar Association section of Dispute Resolution Collaborative Law Committee. He's a regular contributor to the collaborative literary community and past president of Washington State's statewide collaborative organization, the Collaborative Professionals of Washington. He's also a contributing author to an amazing book. If you don't have it, please get it. By the American Bar Association, co-edited by Adam Cordover and Woody Mostyn. He can also be reached. He's got an email address and website. We'll put that in the chat. So without any further ado, let's hear from Kevin.
Good. Thank you for the introduction, Anthony. Good to see everyone. Hello, Florida. There are certain elements of your state I love. And so I figure that's what you're bringing here today, which is your love of collaborative community, love of collaborative practice, and wanting to know more about, what makes this all work. Okay. I sent out handouts. I sent out an agenda. Hopefully you have those all in front of you, but my intention for this meeting is kind of simply, I'm going to just tell a story. I've been a collaborative practitioner since 2008. I guess that's when I took my introductory training. And it's a kind of a question of, in fact, was I a collaborative professional before that, but I just didn't know it. And I think we kind of all ask ourselves that question. Is, in a way, we're all born collaborative practitioners, because we're drawn to this work and it's really heart work, but I graduated law school in 1989 and right away jumped into litigating family law cases for 20 years and was on a perilous journey of not going to be able to survive a career of being a lawyer. Because it was killing me, the work that I was doing. I came across collaborative practice in 2008 and had that epiphany, that visceral sense of coming home to the work that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And every day is a joy now because I get to wake up and come to work and do something collaborative. Over the 13 years, now 15 years that I've been doing this work, it's kind of like, how do I get more collaborative cases? How do I understand this work at a deeper level? And I'm just working away at this. At some early on in my practice, I envisioned a collaborative law center. I wanted a place where people could come to know that I'm not going to bait and switch them. I'm not going to bring them in the door and take them to litigation. I just don't litigate. I haven't litigated since 2010, and I won't do any litigation. The doors to the Seattle Collaborative Law Center opened in, 2020, 19, right? And then it kind of paralleled the pandemic that people may have heard about. So it was interesting because what happened is my phone began working, ringing off the hook. Families were in trauma. Spouses weren't going to work. All of a sudden they were staying home and there was no space for couples. to give them a break from the tensions that ailed their relationships. So what did they do? They called me, they called you, and my guess is a lot of people here had more mediation, family law mediation and family law collaborative work than they've ever had before. So, I didn't have any associates at that time. I now have 2 associates because I could not do all of the work that was coming into my office. So at some point, it was in December a couple years ago, I was just spinning. I was like, what in the heck is going on? I was taking that internal temperature, and I decided to count my collaborative cases. And I had 23 open collaborative cases at that time. And it was like, holy shit, how can I how can I do this and do this work well? So I worked my way through that. All right. I learned a lot of lessons, which I really value from this because, yeah, when my daughter was in 5th grade, I went to an open house, and the teacher was a longtime teacher and said, no one can teach me anything else about teaching that I don't already know. And I was appalled by that statement. And because as collaborative practitioners, teachers, lawyers, human beings, we all have something to continue to learn. Okay, so please, keep your eyes open, your hearts open, your minds open, and learn from yourselves and learn from others. So, this is kind of, just a talk about what I learned, in this period of managing a full collaborative caseload, and there's very clear takeaways. Okay, one of the things that my chops get busted all the time is my love of the concept of transparency, intention, and mindfulness. Because it's kind of like, how do we handle all of the information that's coming in, to us as collaborative professionals, because we have our own internal reaction to interactions with clients, interactions with, our collaborative attorneys that we're working with, the counterpart attorney, that we're working with. How do we process all that? The collaborative process itself is intensive. And it's an intense period of time that we're in our clients' lives for anywhere from 3 to 8 months on average. Okay, how do we share information in order to make the process go as smoothly as possible? Because we all want the process to be time and cost efficient, for our clients. So how do we work together? And then the mindfulness part is, how do we take care of ourselves? Because we have anger come up. We have hate come up. We have biases come up. How do we handle all of this, everything that happens? So, the TIM model, the transparency, intention, mindfulness, is a whole different training. And I could spend a day, talking about that and showing you how it shows up in our initial client consult, how it shows up in our attorney meeting, how it shows up during team meetings and pre-briefs and debriefs and the full case debrief, in the team prep meetings that we have. Okay, so I'm just planting the seed for that. Some of you have heard me rant or rave, whichever one you want to talk about, on that before. But just, as we talk about this, take notes, keep in mind stuff that comes up for you. What am I reacting to? How do I handle this information, that comes up? So, if we were in person and this was a longer breakout session, it was kind of like, how did we get to where we are? And one of the questions I would ask is, and maybe you can just raise your hands, who here has as much collaborative work as they want? Just raise your hand. Okay, who Thanks, Michael. Who here wants more collaborative cases? Good. We've got a great receptive audience here for this. Okay. So how did I get to the point of having as much collaborative work as I wanted, as much collaborative work as I could do, and actually more collaborative work than I could do? All right. There are, I mean, some of this is laid out in the handout. Okay. One is marketing. I don't like to spend a lot of time on marketing. Okay. You know, it's important, however, to educate the public, you know, in terms of what they're going to get when they hire Bob Merlin or Rhonda Fuchs or Carol Ann Mazza. Okay. I put myself out as the peacemaker. Okay. I know Anthony Diaz and I have talked about this, you know, but I have mugs, I have refrigerator magnets, I have buttons, you know, because I have to remind myself every day, you know, that this is the mantra by which I live. All right. So every day, do something collaborative. You know, when you are in bed, you know, before you get out of bed, you know, think about what collaborative thing am I going to do today? All right. And make the intention of doing something collaborative. When you go to bed at night, ask yourself, what collaborative thing did I do today? I listened well. I asked open-ended questions. I got the progress notes done, you know, within a day of when the collaborative meeting was. Put it at the forefront of your mind. Do good work. Okay. Get your progress notes done on time. You know, work within your community to get to know each other, network with each other, find out who's doing collaborative practice and how you do collaborative practice. You know, advertise. Your website should reflect that you're a collaborative practitioner. Okay. You know, and then one of the two big things are get feedbacks from the collaborative professionals with whom you work, but also get feedback from the collaborative clients who work, you know, ask you to invite. One of the things I stopped doing a few years ago was being retained by clients. Okay, because being retained is I'm an object. I am a lawyer designed to, you know, do certain things from their perspective. So now I don't have retainer agreements, I have engagement agreements. I thank clients for inviting me to work with them during this transition in their life. Because you got to go from, I have found it's been very successful going from this I place for the clients, you know, I am I, you are you, you're the lawyer, you know, I expect you to do certain things, to saying we. Okay, because what do we know about collaborative practice? It's a team approach to conflict resolution. It is a team approach to helping clients create what they want their post-divorce life to be. All right, so why should the relationship between attorney and client be an I-it relationship when we're trying to take a we approach to what we're doing? All right. Another thing is your handouts. I shared my handouts. I could go through my handouts and say, you know, this is how I do an initial client consultation. Okay. There's so much that goes into it, but what I'm trying to do is create connection with the clients, get the clients information, and making it possible for them to say yes to inviting me to work with them. All right. You do that, you know, with your collaborative skills of active listening, asking open-ended questions, crying with your clients always sometimes helps. because that's a good sign of that you have empathy for what they are going through. Have a good set of handouts, however, and don't feel free, don't be afraid to steal someone else's. Okay, if you like my handouts, make them your own. If you have handouts, that you find are really effective in your practice group, FACP or your local practice groups, because Florida has a bunch of them floating around, share your handouts. Okay, so those are all things that you can do to expand your collaborative caseload. Volunteer. I know a lot of you guys volunteer for FACP. I know you take leadership positions in different practice groups. Continue to do so. All right. It's time consuming. Okay. But really the reward is greater than the commitment is what I would say. Because it gets people to know that you know what you're talking about. It gets, you create the opportunity to network with each other. And let's quickly just talk about advertising, I guess, because for a long time, I didn't advertise. Okay. I was good enough with word of mouth. All right. And I want everyone to know that you can survive and have enough work to not advertise. Not, I do, you can do AVO, you can do other things. Then this guy came into my life, Brian Galbraith, and I met him in the first Leadership Academy. And, talk about stealing ideas from people. He told, we talked about advertising. And, so Adam and Brian and I, went through the Leadership Academy. So, we started jamming on this stuff. In Brian's advertising budget, though he has a different structure for his office, it's a pretty serious dollar figure, and as a sole practitioner, I was saying, there's no way I can manage that. Certainly not in that amount, but at my level, at some point I made a switch, and so my advertising budget every month now is about $3,500 a month. Okay, and that's social media, that's Google ads, that's Facebook ads, etc. The thing was, it has just exploded the amount of work. So really all I need is one new client a month, to pay for that advertising budget. And I also had to bring on 2 associates who are also non-litigation practitioners to help cover all the work that's coming in. All right. So that's kind of my story. That's how I got to this place in December a couple years ago, of having 23 collaborative cases and, not knowing exactly what to do with them all. Okay. So, try to incorporate, we all know these things. All right. If you don't have those things incorporated, if you don't have your elevator speech down pat, if you don't have your initial client consultation, worked out, all right, use the next practice group meeting that you have or one in the future to go over all those things. Okay, because the clients who come to us, we want them to want to invite us to work with them. So you got to do the work to make that possible within the that initial time that you're meeting with the clients. When you're doing your initial consultation, think about your word choice, invitation versus, retention, move them. Please don't talk about the law with your clients in your initial consultation. Don't talk about the law without, having the full team there in a collaborative case. Okay, because I have found, my experience was when I dropped talking about the law and about that I would possibly know how their case is going to turn out. Okay, they were more open and more creative in the collaborative process than in what would happen is they would not choose collaborative because I'm entitled to this. Why don't I just go to court and have someone decide? Okay, so don't talk about the law. Instill hope within your client, the prospective new client. And it's like hope instead of result. All right, so if Michael were coming to me and we were doing an initial client consultation, I would let him talk for a while, and then at some point I would look at him and say, Michael, what does a happy Michael look like? Right, and he may smile, he may cry, he may say, I don't know. Okay, but it's like wanting to plant the seed of, look, if you invite me to work with you, Michael, okay, you and I are going to pick a process, that is most likely to get you to where you want to go. All right. The clients aren't saying, I want to beat up my spouse. I want my pound of flesh. They're saying, I don't know anymore. I just want to be happy. I want the kids to be okay. Okay. And then one of my handouts is the You Have a Choice handout. Okay. And you guys also have the UCLA in Florida. It's part statute, part rules. So, we as collaborative professionals have an obligation to talk about all of the dispute resolution options that are available to clients. Where non-collaborative professionals, I don't think we can have an argument or discussion about whether we ethically have an obligation as lawyers, in either of our jurisdictions to talk about different process options. But the UCLA makes mandates that we talk to our clients about that and look at it as an opportunity. Okay. So, how did I get 23 collaborative cases? By doing all of that stuff that I've just talked about. Okay. By caring, by, working hard, don't cut corners. We experience collaborative professionals, and those of you who don't have as much experience, you have to do your pre-briefs. You have to do pre-briefs before, you have to do your team prep meeting. Okay, I need to know how Karen Sachs practices collaborative practice. She needs to understand that I'm a Times New Roman guy. I hate Calibri. I don't like untimeliness. I don't like exceeding client or not exceeding client expectations. I need to know how she, operates. And I'm seeing that you have fans in this group, Karen, but you need to be vulnerable. At the end of the case, you have to do a case debrief. Okay, you guys have surveys that you do for data in Florida. I do so here in the state of Washington. We had a case debrief yesterday where I had an observer, one of my associates had observed that case. So he observed the case debrief. And I had the opportunity to speak with the other attorney and express, one of the problems I have working with you is I believe you have a tendency to go to email negotiation towards the latter part of the collaborative case. And that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Okay, because I can do that too. And I kind of resent you leading me down that path, and how can we work together, to make sure that the value of having the client make the decision, okay, doesn't get swept away by attorneys, taking over the negotiation process and making the clients believe that they don't have to do the work anymore because the lawyers are taking over. Okay. But those are all vulnerable. Sometimes I would call them necessary. I mean, we talk about difficult conversations. Randy Heller and I gave a presentation, a few years ago in Florida about necessary conversations as opposed to, difficult conversations, because who wants to have a difficult conversation, right? So let's just make it necessary, and we're all going to survive the conversation, would be what I would say. All right, so I've got a full collaborative caseload because in part, Bob Merlin wants to, he trusts me as a counterpart attorney, collaborative attorney, or Karen knows that I'm good with my clients and know that I value the process and I don't get positional. So you start getting referrals from all over the place. With the pandemic, I was doing cases all over the state of Washington, because it opened it up as a result of Zoom. And so your cred in the community, your reputation in the community, and if you don't like someone in your community, take a look at that, because you're missing a referral source. So can you mend that relationship? Are you willing to pick up the phone, not an email, and reach out and say, God, Bob, I don't know that you and I are really good together. Do you think we can overcome the struggle that we have together? And where is that all coming from? And maybe it's a misperception that we have. Okay, so have your initial client, your handouts all ready to go, and then you build up your stable of collaborative cases. Then it's a question of how do you manage 23 collaborative cases at the same time? Okay, now some are at the beginning, some are at the middle, some are at the end, and there's things that are going on all the time because you have to have your client prep call. All right, you have to get the agenda ready, okay, for the meeting. You got to get your progress notes. Some people debrief with their clients after each meeting. I don't, unless the clients need it. Okay, I invite them, if they want to debrief it, we'll talk the next day or, the next week if necessary. There's the drafting of initial divorce pleadings, separation contracts, final pleadings. Okay, how do you handle everything? Okay, how many of you are sole practitioners? Okay, and it's more difficult for sole practitioners. Okay, I have 2 attorneys, 2 associates, and I have 3 legal assistants. All right, so as we have these 23 cases, the key to doing this all was creating systems. Okay, I talked earlier about not taking shortcuts. All right, now who here puts their agendas together in the pre-brief before each meeting? All right, there's a couple that do. I used to. That's the way I was trained. Okay, that you meet and and then it started not making sense. And meetings weren't going very well because the clients didn't know what it was they were going to be talking about, and how could I prep my client for each meeting if the agenda wasn't sent out ahead of time. So one of the things I did was I created agendas. Okay, and so I sent you the 4 agendas that we use, in my collaborative cases, and they're all modifiable depending on what's happening in each case. In general, however, that's the structure. That's another one of the systems, is to have a structure in place for the collaborative case that you're on. And you have the team prep meeting, so everyone's on the same page, making modifications or doing whatever. But we get our agendas out sometimes right after a meeting, so they could have the agenda 3 or 4 weeks ahead of the next meeting. Okay, it's going to be out there at least 2 weeks before the meeting, so that when I prep my client, we know what we're talking about. I know what I'm prepping for. I have my assistants, my legal assistants know, God, this was so great when I could delegate the scheduling of client prep calls, to my assistant, and I didn't have to be doing these email exchanges with my client. No, I can't do Monday at 2, but I could do Tuesday at, 8:30. No, well, we can't do that. My gosh, I can't afford to be micromanaging or doing that because I've got more important things to do. So my assistants are set up to draft the agendas, to draft, to make the client prep call scheduling, the team prep meeting for the professionals before, at the beginning of each case. And one of the things that I get to tell the clients is that you look at my clients charge out at a much low, I'm sorry, my legal assistants charge out at a much lower rate than I do. And they are going to be doing the initial drafting of all the initial divorce pleading, separation contract, final. Okay, so there's a cost saving there. Progress notes. When I take progress notes, I can go to my shred box right here. All right. So what I do with my progress notes is I take the agenda and I create a draft of the progress notes. And then I take notes during the meeting. I don't like to type during the meeting. Some people do. But then I just scan this in and I email it to Maggie. And Maggie turns these things around, in same day turnaround on progress notes. So it keeps it fresh in everyone's mind, as to what we did at the meeting, what everyone's homework assignment is. Okay. Has anyone here ever been late on getting progress notes out? Yeah, I have too. I fess up. Okay. If we don't get it to it, the clients lose trust in the process. Okay. So managing 23 collaborative cases, you're trying to maintain a high level of trust, period, in the process between professionals, between you and your client, between the clients, because they're in their own micro container outside of the collaborative process, or within, but outside, the team meetings. And they can do a lot of damage themselves. So we need to contain them, as much as possible. The education of the clients. Okay. So, that was another thing, that a period of my collaborative development. I said, what's really bothering me is I have to keep educating clients on the value of a collaborative coach or a collaborative child specialist or a collaborative financial neutral. And what I am finding is that the clients and counterpart attorney and coach and facilitator in your area and financial neutral don't know how we all act with each other and what to expect, from the collaborative attorney or what to expect from the coach. And so I started talking to people in my community, coaches, so, but here's my understanding. What's your understanding of what your role is? I talked to child specialists and I talked to neutrals. And I didn't talk to any other collaborative attorney when I put together my what to expect from a collaborative attorney handout. And I'm open to feedback from any of you. But it's like these handouts I can now share with clients, because I will not do any collaborative case without a coach. All right. So, all right, there's a thumbs up. Does anyone else have the same approach to collaboration? All right, good. Because I still talk to prospective collaborative, attorneys and practitioners who say, no, coach is too expensive, financial neutral. I can do all the finances. And we don't have to bring in a outside person to do the finances. And the understanding that this process is more time and cost efficient if we delegate duties to each of the different professions actually saves money in the long run is very counterintuitive, for I think new attorneys into this area. I don't think it's as hard for the facilitators or for the financials to understand, that just let me do my job, please, and I can help this couple, get across the finish line and into their post-divorce life. So the systems that are in place, okay, and you have to think, I pay for my systems, okay, I pay, I have three legal assistants and 2 associates, okay. It is cost effective for me and allows me to have a better quality of life to delegate for all those things. I've got a bookkeeper. I don't want to keep my books. I don't want to do my quarterly taxes, with the state of Washington, because that takes me away from doing the work that I really love doing and which nurtures me. Okay. So put your systems in place, and it's kind of like my size job. All right. Take part of what I'm talking about today. And if you don't do it, think about, how can I do this better? How can I have someone else do this? Because it can immediately make you a happier person, and it can make the services that you provide to be more attractive to a greater number of people. Okay. So the last part of this that I just want to touch on before we can just have a discussion, is the mindfulness piece. Okay. Because the thing I learned about having 23 open collaborative cases is that that's not healthy for me. Okay. I did it. I never want to do it again. Okay. There was a period of time, a few months, couple months, where I was an absent collaborative professional on my cases. And I don't think it was all my cases during that period of time, but there were a couple that I had so much shame, of not being able to respond to, PTO, professional team only emails. I just couldn't do it. I would look at the inbox when I came in, and it was another thing being asked of me, and so much is asked of us as professionals who help families who are in, toxic relationships or in fear or in sadness. They're devastated. Okay, who holds us? So how do we hold ourselves, when we hit a wall? Okay, and we attorneys have ethical obligations to be competent. All right. So what happens when we get to a place where we're not professionally competent? All right. And so let's see, at the most recent forum, I did a PFI with Courtney Story, Ann Lucas, and Marianne Nelson, with whom I have done, I do a lot of collaborative work with. And it was on a couple of the cases that I had with those professionals where I went silent and I went absent. And they would ask, Ann, right, would say, Kevin, are you okay? you know, and I would say, yeah, I'm fine. Okay. But it was like, you know, back to being an adolescent male, you know, where the answer to your mom and dad, you know, of are you doing okay, is I'm doing fine. You know, I don't want to create waves. You know, I'm supposed to be a strong, you know, individual. I'm not supposed to show weakness. I'm not supposed to acknowledge, you know, that I don't have it. You know, and God bless them, you know, that, I mean, during the PFI, they actually came up and gave me a hug as we were talking about, you know, that period of time. So, you know, it's kind of like having 23 open collaborative cases for an attorney, and I won't speak for financial neutrals or facilitators. Don't, you know, I don't know if you want it. Okay. That being said, how do we take care of ourselves? You know, during this, I don't know, for 2 years, did I really work 7 days a week? You know, for 2 years? You know, even if I was away from the office, was I on my computer for multiple hours a day? Yeah. Am I proud of that? No. Can I learn from that? Yes. Okay. So I just want to say, you know, what can you do? You know, and this is where your notes come from, and this is where your practice group discussion has, you know, can be, is where, how can I take care of myself? What do I need to do to take care of myself? Okay. And, you know, again, when you go to bed at night, it's that question of what collaborative thing did I do today? You know, it's a mantra, it's a meditation. Same thing the next morning. What collaborative thing, you know, am I going to do today? And then where do I fit in swimming? Where do I fit in eating well? Where do I fit in, you know, going to the club, doing Pilates, going for a walk, you know, spending time with my kids, grandkids, spouse, dog. You know, but all of those things, you know, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not at our best self, we cannot be a QCP, which is a quality collaborative professional. And if we are not a quality collaborative professional and not taking care of ourselves, we're not doing our clients any good. And, you know, if I'm have an extended period of not being a quality collaborative professional, Rhonda's not going to want to work with me. Becky's not going to want to work with me because I'm not reliable. Okay. And I don't help make them shine for their client. All right. So it's like a slippery slope, right? I mean, it's all the work that I talked about, you know, my commitment to collaborative work in the collaborative community and growing my collaborative practice and understanding this work at a deeper and deeper level and writing about it and living it. Okay. Look where it got me. I mean, you know, it's just like, wow, I got to where I thought I wanted to be. And then what happened is I stopped being a quality collaborative practitioner. Okay. Which is the antithesis of what I wanted to experience, you know, in doing this work. All right. So what's another lesson is I survived it. Okay. I'm good. I mean, I'm fine. I learned so much about going through that experience. And the wonderful thing now is I have all these systems in place. Okay. That I've got my agendas. I have the clarity of educating clients and other professionals about not what they should do. Okay, that's not the purpose of those, but it's simply to explain who I am as a collaborative professional and how I believe this process works the best, or one way, but that I am open to hearing from the people with whom I work to hear how they think we can all make it better working together. Okay, so those are basically my takeaways, of, it's an investment, it's a commitment to create all the collaborative work that you want. All right, handouts, writings, blog, advertise, internalize yourself as a collaborative professional. All right, I learned at the very beginning that I can't, do the Nancy Cameron thing of riding two horses. All right, I cannot litigate and at the same time collaborate, because I don't want to open up the litigation lizard brain, within the collaborative container, because it scares the hell out of me, and I know it doesn't do the process any good. But it's all possible to do. And one of the I guess final thing I would do before opening it up to questions is be open to each other. Okay, don't close yourselves off from each other and think that there is something wrong with you because you don't have as much collaborative work as you want. Okay, you're not being judged by other people in your community, or even if they are judging you, just, don't take it personally. But reach out, pick up the phone, invite each other to lunch, really commit yourself to your practice group work, and open up those lines of communication. Share your successes, share your less than successes, and even share your failures. Okay, because I could not have gotten here without my collaborative community here, inviting me to cases that they have. All right, so I just threw a bunch of stuff against the wall. Please open up your microphones, raise your hands. Anyone have any questions about what we talked about what's going on in your collaborative work? Karen?
I know. First of all, I want to thank you. This was a great presentation, but two things struck me in what you said. One is the picking up the phone. I am a solo practitioner who am embarrassed to say that today I think I missed a meeting for my group, because as I came in from another case this morning, I looked at my thing and I saw all these notes. And you're right, I have to bite the bullet and get this assistant back, because it's, when you say you're getting help, it's not that easy. Sometimes for people that are sole practitioners, it's harder to get people to understand what you do, and by the time you train them, you don't have the time, so you kind of move on. But your talk, I'm doing it, so I got that, and I want to thank you, because the other thing is the phone. So many times as a mental health professional, I'm not looking at my emails all day long. And when I'm on a team and the attorneys are like banging these out, or they're having their people bang all this stuff out, sometimes it does save time to communicate like that. And I find with my clients, they do prefer that personal phone call so often. So I appreciate what you said there, because sometimes you do get a quicker answer like that.
Yeah, and thank you, Karen, and I saw Rhonda put her thumbs up also. And from my experience as a collaborative attorney, I have really appreciated when a coach, Ann Lucas will ping me and say, Kevin, the tone of your emails come across to me like this. It might be better for you to pick up the phone. Okay, and it's, you know, maybe I'm a white male, you know, I'm from Nebraska. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that go into, you know, the way that I send messages. It's a reminder for all of us. And I'm not cured of it too either. And I, you know, always endeavored to do a better job of picking up the phone and talking to counterpart attorney or whatever. So Sheila?
Hi, Kevin. Thanks also for your talk. I wondered if you could address the issue of the neutrals being the originator of collaborative cases. We talk mostly about, and obviously it's a legal process, so that attorneys are the originators, but Brian Galbraith is coming to talk to our practice group. Everybody's invited. And one of the things he says in their community, that mental health people, for example, will originate cases. They'll be part of the case. When we're clinicians, if we refer to collaborative attorneys, which we have opportunity to do, then we have to step back. We can't be the facilitator in the case. But what Brian's saying in their community, that the mental health people are generating the referrals and are in a way that they can stay in the case as the facilitator. So I wonder your thoughts on that.
My thoughts are the same as Brian, is that there is some way in our community where the mental health professionals are originating the case and invite in, you know, refer out to the collaborative attorneys. Okay. And I know Ann Lucas does it, Tim Peterson, you know, other coaches and facilitators, we call them coaches, in our community. I'm not sure, I have no problem with the ethics. It's not like they're doing marriage counseling. They're just kind of like doing discernment counseling. Kind of like is there anything left for the two of you to work on in your relationship? And if the answer is no, then they'll be happy to refer out, keep them out of court, refer to the collaborative process. Okay. So we have that happening in our community as well. And I don't know why you can't do that in your community, but it's really helpful because in your offices, I know that you are talking to them and you have already done that second opinion now that these two are suitable for the collaborative process and the collaborative process is suitable for them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be referring to collaborative professionals. All right. I want to put in a plug for you collaborative attorneys. We collaborative attorneys here is value your neutrals. Okay. You know, I'm hearing stuff even here where the attorneys want to see the engagement letter with the financial neutral and the clients or with the coach and the clients. And I don't know what that's about, but you know, you've got your own engagement letter and the attorney shouldn't be messing around with it. Okay, so value the neutrals. Rhonda, good to see you.
Yes. Hi, Kevin. Thank you. Great presentation. You mentioned something earlier about, you know, sometimes near the end of a case, it starts to become email from the attorney to the other attorney and it becomes negotiations, which I think are out of the collaborative process. Bob Merlin and I've had this discussion and even the situation. I feel, you know, get all the players in the room. And I think sometimes the attorneys or facilitators or neutrals, you know, fear the confrontation, not in a bad way, just the negotiation with the clients, like right then and there. And I feel they can't make decisions if they're not in the room.
I agree with you. Okay, and this is kind of perfect from what I was talking about of respect the neutrals. Okay, because my hope, Rhonda, is that you would send out an email saying, have the clients authorized this email negotiation? You know, where is the voice of the client? Where are the voices of this family? You know, is this about you, Bob and Kevin, or is this, you know, I would, so transparency piece. Mm-hmm. Okay, of look at, this is what I'm observing, this is what I'm experiencing, because I'm very uncomfortable with, you know, the conversations the negotiations going on by email without the clients being present? And can we set an intention of putting this on the agenda for the next meeting and putting it back to the clients and saying, this is your job. This is your task in the collaborative process. And then back to mindfulness of, let's all take a deep breath here. Okay, we can have a conversation about, for the collaborative attorneys, what's causing you to reach out, in this form of communication? Is it to save money? Is it because the lawyer lizard brain is coming out? Is this advocacy? And so the mindfulness of exploring, right? So there's an example of how you can change the temperature and the tone and the behavior and bring it back to kind of, I'm going to say, the purity of the collaborative process. Okay, because I really value the container and the work be done in the container. We all do our job. So thank you, Rhonda. Karen?
I think we're all having this discussion on chat about Sheila's question. If I'm the therapist for a couple and I refer them to collaborative, I cannot be the facilitator because I've already to dual role, just like I can work with them after the collaborative process. But I know just recently from my website and stuff, I'll get calls about mediation or the collaborative process. And so it'll come to me first and then I'll bring it. And I'm just asking Sheila, maybe that's what he was referring to, that we're the first point of contact, not that we were the therapist, because I just want to.
And not that you're the coach or facilitator
right.
on the case, but know
Right.
about collaborative process. This couple wants to keep it out, so you send it to collaborative attorneys, and Rhonda steps on as the facilitator.
But not if I didn't work with them. If I worked with them, I'll refer them to Rhonda as a facilitator.
Right. And I think that hopefully, Jeremy, that addresses your comments, which I saw flash up in the chat. And thank you for putting those out, Jeremy. Brenda.
Thank you, Kevin. Always good to see you and to see everybody here as well. I just have one thing to share with you because you love systems. Well, so do I, because I can't keep everything straight. And so I'm just going to share this one with you all. It doesn't, mean that you'll adapt it, but I want to share it anyways. So this is this week. If you can see, I have 4 collaborative cases this week that are happening. My problem is keeping all the teams straight. This names the case, everybody involved in the case. So that way I can get it straight in my head. So that's been a system that has helped me greatly.
Anything, because being late for a collaborative meeting or missing a collaborative meeting, oh my gosh.
Right.
What a terrible feeling to get a text from, Ann Lucas saying, Kevin, where are you?
Get you there and get you with the right people. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, it was wonderful seeing everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. I love your community. I've learned stuff from your community, and have appreciated over the years all of the conversations that we've had at FACP, at the forum in Orlando. And I hold all of you guys in high esteem. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate you. And what I enjoy about when you join us is it's less of a presentation and more of a conversation. And that's really what our collaborative process is all about. So I appreciate your time, your handouts, your energy. It's been great to have you. A couple of announcements I wanted to make to everyone. Our next outreach committee meeting is next Thursday at noon. So if you'd like to join us, just let me know and we'll get you on our email list to make sure you get the link. Our next webinar is April 26th at noon. Randy Heller is going to be presenting staying in your own lane and avoiding the crash. So I'm really interested to see how to avoid accidents. and it's going to be great. So thank you everybody for being here, and we will see you soon.
Thanks all.